Good evening, Canby. I am going to call to order the Canby Urban Renewal Agency meeting. We'll forego the pleasantries of opening ceremonies for the council meeting. We do have, this is an item on the agenda, I believe, so I'm going to hold this card until we get to that point of the agenda. Do we have anybody online that has citizen input otherwise? No. Okay. In that case, we'll move to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda that includes the minutes from the June 5th, 2024 and June 19th, 2024 Urban Renewal Agency meetings.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Maldonado and seconded by Commissioner Davis to approve the consent agenda that includes the minutes from the June 5th, 2024 and June 19th, 2024 Urban Renewal Agency meetings. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes 6-0. Okay.
Madam Chair, we have one item of new business tonight, and I'm going to call Tyler to the podium.
Okay.
And he's going to present our one facade improvement program. So Tyler, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tyler Neiser. I'm the Economic Development and Tourism Coordinator for the City of Canby, and I'm here before you tonight because we have received, the city has received an application for the facade improvement grant for Lenest, and that is going to be located at 151 Northwest 3rd Avenue, and it's for up to $25,000. And there's some outlines of the items that these applicant will cover. But while I'm doing that, maybe Teresa, if you could pull up what the building looks like today, so that way you could get a visual of where this is located and how it looks. And then later on, I'll have Shelley come up and she'll talk about what the changes will look like with the new picture. So this will include painting the entire building. It'll be a new storefront, wood paneling with trim detailing, a new 42-inch glass wood front door with a brass kick plate and handle, new windows installed on the left and right of the alcove entrance. It'll replace the existing storefront windows with a solid glass, no panels. There will be black trim on the front corners. Replace and add needed exterior lighting and possible lit blade sign. There'll be a store signage that's still to be determined, and that'll be painted logo or possibly something on the window or possibly on the metal fascia above storefront. And then there will be a descriptive vinyl in gold letters, and that'll be added along the bottom of the window. There also be repairing dry rot siding where applicable, and planning to have a painted mural on the back side of the building, and it'll be of a quote, "What if I fall? Oh, but darling, what if you fly?" And a little bit of background for the facade improvement program. Since 2010, the Canby Urban Renewal Agency has funded construction grants of up to $25,000 to encourage private investment within Canby's Urban Renewal District. The facade improvement program partners with property owners and businesses to make improvements to the exterior buildings of clearly visible from the street. And in this case, it is a little unique because there are 3 visible sides from the street. You could see in this picture, you could see the front and the side view there. And then on the rear, you could see it from 2nd Avenue. And then this partnership helps the Canby Business District revitalize and become more inviting to tenants, customers, and residents. This program has been successful in generating design improvements at approximately 3 properties per year in downtown Canby and along Highway 99E. Lenest is located in downtown Canby at 151 Northwest 3rd Avenue, and the owner of the building parted ways with the tenant who occupied the building, and they would like to be the home of their business. The mission of their business is to create an inspiring shopping experience for the young at heart. This would be a home goods retail store with an interior design studio, and their presentation will include furniture, home goods, and an array of gift items. As they seek to transform the space, they have discovered dry rot damage and lots to update. In addition to repairing any dry rot, the owner will further improve the exterior of the building with a new facade and paint color. Owners of Lenest plan to use a black tone that will complement the gold trim and other features of the exterior. The project will include upgrades to both the front and rear of the building, both seen from 3rd Avenue and 2nd Avenue, as I mentioned earlier. And the economic development staff has worked with the applicant, so they are aware the grant can be used for work started after the approval from the Urban Renewal Agency. I did send this out to the Main Street Design Committee for comments, and we did receive one comment, which was, this looks beautiful and we can't wait. And so I will call up Shelley, and we could put up the picture of what's proposed, and she could answer any questions that you guys might have for what's going in.
Hi.
Hello, Shelley.
Hello.
Commissioners, do you have any, okay, Commissioner Davis.
So, Shelley, welcome. So who is the owner of the building? Are you going to be the owner of the building?
It's a family building. My father owns it.
Okay, your father owns it. Okay. Was there an inspection done on this building before, or he owns it now?
He
Oh.
built it in '94,
Okay,
but after he retired, we've been leasing it out to other printing
to other
companies.
tenants. Got it, okay. So prior to looking at redesigning this, did you do an inspection on the building to know exactly what the circumstances were with the dry rot or anything?
It's apparent when you walk around the outside, so when we have had general contractors take a look at it.
Okay. So I guess this question's for you, Tyler. What's the definition of blight under the urban renewal plan?
What was that again?
What is the definition of blight? In other words, facade improvement is supposed to be for repairing blight within the community in regards to the facade improvement.
So the facade improvement program is designed to improve the facade, and you could see with the picture that is posted up here, this is an improvement to the current building in the state that was already posted earlier, and so.
And to answer, I guess, more specifically the question, in the urban renewal plan, I looked, and I did not see, I've seen the use of the word blight, but not necessarily the definition of the word blight explicitly called out in that plan. So it is not, it doesn't say it's this level of, dry rot or something like that. There's no quantitative piece to the word blight in the urban renewal plan as it would relate to a facade improvement application. And also, just for all those watching at home, Jamie Stickle, Economic Development Director, just wanted to make sure I
thank
had
you.
some of that background information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Commissioner Sassy.
So you're talking about a mural, is that on the backside in the alley?
Correct.
So who's really, unless you drive the alley, who's going to see that mural?
We did do a walkthrough and a drive-through on 2nd Avenue, and you could see there is nothing obstructing the view of that building on the rear side of it.
So isn't Willamette Valley in the back, coffee house in the back of that, isn't that alleyway?
It's off to, if you're looking at it from this view, Coffee House is to the right.
So
It's
you
in
would
between
see
the
it,
park-
you would see it past the Caldera building, probably, correct?
Caldeira's the wrong block.
Yeah, it's in between the Willamette Coffee House building and the Key Bank.
Yeah,
Or
yep.
not Key Bank, Wells Fargo.
The old Parsons building.
Wells Fargo
Yeah.
and, yeah,
So you could see it through the Wells Fargo parking lot?
yes.
Okay.
Right.
I thought, and explain me if I'm wrong, but I thought facades were, the front looks fantastic. I think it looks fantastic.
Thank you.
I thought that was, when we do money like this, I thought it was just for the front, the facade of a building.
It's for all the sides that are seen from the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
even though it's a little, this side here, which would be the east, even though it's real long and narrow, people can still see down there if they really want to look and stop their car and look.
Yeah.
Okay.
My guess is the intention is to attract business, or attract attention to your building from another block over.
Yes.
To come around and see what's over there. I could see that. And this is a matching grant, so I guess you could just look at it as they're paying for the mural and we're helping with the front. As, you know, but it is interesting, though, that there is no definition of light in the
Yeah.
plan. We might want to work on that in the future.
So on this, and I want to make sure that I'm clear, you're asking for the full amount of the 25,000?
That's what we do for each of the facade applications, is up to
It's up to.
25,000.
Okay.
They did go through 3 bids, and it looks like it's going to be under that 25,000, but we still put it in there.
Do we know about how much they're looking at with, because from my experience, rot doesn't just stay in one spot. It tends to spread pretty
Right.
rapidly.
I don't recall off the top of my head what the final bid was, that was the lowest out of the 3.
The bids came in from 42 to 57.
So it'd be that 42 one. Yeah.
By the way, beautiful design. That's really, really, really nice. Very subtle.
Thank you. There will be some changes. This was the inspirational, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
This was the inspirational mock-up that I had done, but I'm not going to move the front door.
Okay, so the front door would stay
We're taking all the cues
off-centered.
from this, brick on the corner, as much glass front as we can do, the front door.
And the dog will be there at the door, right?
Paint. Absolutely.
We gotta have the dog.
I'll borrow that dog.
And I did want the Urban Renewal Agency to be aware that staff does recommend the approval of this facade improvement grant of up to $25,000. But we did want the agency to be aware that there is a facade application that was approved 2 years ago that has not been designated the money. And so that could possibly be completed by the middle of August. So we're still waiting to see if they'll complete that. And then that is up to $25,000. So if that one was to be fulfilled in the middle of August, that would be 25. If this one was up to 25, that would be 50. And I believe at the budget, it was approved for 40,000 for the facade improvement grant. So I just wanted you guys to be aware that something to be aware of for you guys.
So the previous one was in the previous budget year?
So it was in 2022, and
2022.
and the facade applications have up to 2 years to fully be complete.
And so those funds didn't get carried over into the next budget. Why?
They get taken out of the budget into that year. So if it's into, if it was approved in 2022, then it would get taken out of 2023 if that's the year that it was taken out of.
Right, but they weren't expended yet. And now we're in a new budget year.
Right.
I'm just wondering, so those monies disappeared or they're still sitting there? I'm trying to figure out how we're going to end up in a budget shortfall over this. Eileen, yes.
Thank you. Apparently, we do not carry money over, we just reappropriate it. So whenever the improvements are finished, then the payments come in, that they are charged to what is appropriated that fiscal year. So-
Okay.
So
don't
that,
recall
that
this at
does
the
present the
budget meeting.
possibility that we could have.
No.
Yeah, none of us seem to recall this being discussed at the budget meeting. I mean, I think that would have been important information for the budget committee to know that we have this plan that's out there that could still come up and need to be paid for, but yet we're not going to hold the money. I don't understand this piece.
The way that it has been set up in the past is that with the kind of natural flow of the construction, we've never had a situation where we're going into a year where with the $40,000, since we had in previous years, 75,000 and years prior to that, 150,000. I think maybe there was more flexibility. But with that one from 2022 still outstanding, when we were bringing this forward and talking about it, we wanted to make sure that we acknowledged that today with you guys. It's possible that in the next month that reimbursement request does not come in, and so it could be that we're starting at zero, but that we wanted to make sure that you had all of the information and have that piece in the back of your mind, so you don't approve up to $25,000, and then we have, let's say, the applicant who is outstanding, they come in at $25,000, this application comes through at $25,000, and then we're in a situation where we're,
We have to do supplemental for 10.
right, and at the very least, we wanted to make sure that we were acknowledging it so that we're not coming back and you're saying, why haven't we heard of this? It's just unique this year that the money that was allocated to the facade improvement program, it was 40,000, which isn't enough for unless they come in less than that.
Right, and the deadline for them to expend those from 22 is next month?
Middle of next month.
Middle
yes.
of next month. So might I just suggest, going forward, I know we're coming up to the close of the district. However, I can't speak for my entire group of colleagues, but if it were me, and if I'm just speaking for myself in that budget meeting, had we known this, we might have approved that budget for 50 instead of 40. And that would make more sense. I know, I'm with you, I don't like the program either, but that's beside the point. But, then we could have avoided this kind of a situation. So I think that would have been important information for the budget committee to have back then.
Absolutely. And just the other thing to note is that this situation is also unique in the sense that we have an outstanding application and a new application that both look like they, if they submit their reimbursement request, would each be up to 25,000. A lot of times, we've had painting, which doesn't even get nearly that close. So
Right.
I think, I understand there's different feelings about facade funding and that was at play, but also one of the things is that if you look at the years prior, we hadn't hit that $75,000 amount. And I actually don't even believe that we came close to the $40,000 amount. I think that over the last 3 years that we were probably closer to maybe 35 at most.
Right, yeah, I get that.
But I do understand.
But we're now
yes.
in this potential predicament that
Absolutely.
might have been avoided. So Commissioner Davis, yes.
Thank you. So the budget's $40,000. You have an outstanding of 25, and the request is for 25.
And there's 15 of them.
How can you make a recommendation for 25 when there's not that much money in the budget?
Yes, so we brought the application forward the way, since the grant program is written at 25,000, and the way that the staff report has always been brought forward at 25,000, but that's why we wanted to make sure that we were not having you go forward, make a vote tonight for up to 25,000, and then have that second one come through. It's possible, as I said, that they don't, but
Okay. Madam Chair, I cannot approve a $25,000 request when we know upfront that we're going to be over budget. So we're going to have to adjust that amount down for this request to stay within the budget.
Commissioner Stearns?
I'm just curious if whether it'd be possible to delay the approval of the money. It looks like there will be certainty within about a month. Right now, there isn't certainty, and it may be a better idea to wait until there's certainty, and then we can have the option of maybe going for the whole 25 or maybe less. But I kind of agree right now with uncertainty, maybe this meeting might be premature to approve 25,000 when we don't know whether we're going to go over budget, but it doesn't sound like we'd wait a long time to get the certainty, so why not just defer the decision until we get the certainty on the other project?
Yeah, I was of a similar mind. is there a mechanism, I guess I'll ask the urban renewal agency director, is there an avenue where we could approve 15 tonight, because that's the maximum that's in the budget, and then they could come forward in another month for 10, or do we need to pause this completely for 25 in a month? Because I'm feeling that we're probably not going to be able to pass it for 25 tonight,
Right.
because it's not in the budget.
I'm going to toss that one back to the applicant and to Jamie and Tyler, because that's certainly an option. Can the applicant do something with 15,000 and get, some of the improvements started, and then knowing that we could be back in a matter of a month or two?
Asking for the rest of it.
For the rest of the amendment, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know what we're in a predicament we have not seen in my time on this agency, so I'm wondering what, I'm going to defer to you, Jamie and Tyler, what is the best way to
That would be
go?
fine, from staff perspective, if, so that way you could get the work going. And it is a unique position to be in, and especially since we're at the close of the district. It's not one that we've ever seen before. And so we could, approve it at that $15,000, or, and then, it could that staff brings it back, and if you're able to make it, great. If you want to call in, whatever works best, or we could pause that if you'd like to wait to see if you can get up to the whole 25,000. But just from the perspective of having this written the way that it is, because the program as written is up to 25,000, we just didn't want to say, well, there's only 15, because then, especially if that facade application they don't ever submit their invoices, their paid invoices for reimbursement, then it feels that staff would be making a decision that really treads into the territory of the urban renewal agency, that the program as written is up to 25,000. So that's why it's written that way, just as a little background. But I'm happy to do whichever. I guess I'll see if that works okay for you.
May I ask, it's mid-August, do you think, that timeline? So what's cranking in my head is just, I'd like to get the paint going before fall. Rain hits, so
yeah.
I would like to proceed as you laid out the suggestion. I like
Start.
thinking outside the box.
Get started
Yeah.
with 15 and then see if we have the 10 in a month from now, is what you're thinking you'd like to try to do? Okay, yes, Jamie?
Is it possible that if one of our commissioners were to make a recommendation, that the recommendation could be for the up to $25,000, provided that is there a way to do something like that, so that then staff is happy to come back to another meeting. I just didn't know if there was a way to word the motion so that then, provided that money that there's enough money in that budget after mid-August, that then she could have without having to come back, but staff is happy to come back. Absolutely.
So something to the effect of, we approve up to 25,000 or what's left in the budget, whichever is less.
I feel like it's.
I mean, is that what you're
Yes, it's another
proposing?
meeting, but I feel it's cleaner if we just reword it to up to 15, and then she comes back for the 10 if that other project doesn't come through. To me, it seems cleaner and more easy to understand when we go back on the records 10 years from now and go, what the heck were they doing? We can read this and understand what happened. A lot of usually are to do it in two pieces.
I mean,
That's my thought.
that's fine. I just
Any other thoughts?
deal in taxes all the time. We always have 2 or 3 limits that we have to go juggle, so.
Commissioner
used to it.
Sassen.
Jamie, when is this, the first applicant, when is that 2 years up?
August 17th.
Okay,
30 days
there
from
we
today.
go.
Yeah.
So if that goes through or falls through, she can get the whole 25, we're still under budget?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes. Do we know what the likelihood is? Do we know the project's happened and they just haven't submitted receipts? I know we don't want to say who, but do you know if it's done and they just haven't submitted things, or have they not started work, or do we know what the status is?
Part of the work has been completed, but we're not sure if the full facade application is going to be approved or go through with the what they had planned, so.
Okay, but no receipts have come to you yet?
No.
Okay, you'll probably get them tomorrow after they watch this meeting.
Problem.
Okay.
Well, and we have communicated, Tyler has communicated the deadline with the applicant to make sure that they're aware that their time is short. So it's not going to, if for some reason those, paid invoices came through on August 18th, that's not going to be something that then is going to be a surprise to them. They are aware of what their timeline looks like.
Okay,
And-
that's good.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns from the panel? Mr. Mayor, do you have anything? No?
I do not.
Okay. I am prepared to accept a motion amended, or however you want to do it, folks.
I move that we approve the project for up to $15,000 at this time. And with, I guess, the option that they can ask for 10 later.
So up to 15,000.
Actually, he already made the motion, so do you second it? Is that-
I second it, yeah.
Okay. It's been moved by Commissioner Stearns and seconded by Commissioner Maldonado to approve the matching grant of up to $15,000 for Lynest under the guidelines of the Canby Facade Improvement Program. Any more discussion?
May I?
Commissioner Maldonado, then Commissioner Davis.
Can we also add in there, so up to $15,000 and with a revisit for the remainder?
To be revisited in 30 days, or to be revisited in the future?
Yeah,
For the remainder of the amount.
correct.
So I guess they have the right to have a second application
Yeah.
of up to $10,000.
That way, in case it does fall through, they can still come back.
To my understanding, you only get one per first applicant, right? So that this lets her.
Okay,
do
the
two.
motion was made by Counselor Stearns, so I will read it as amended to see if you concur. The motion is now to approve the matching grant of up to $15,000 for Lynest under the guidelines of the Canby Facade Improvement Program to be revisited in the future for another $10,000.
That works for me.
And does it seconder? Okay, that is now the motion. Commissioner Davis, question, comment?
Thank you. I'm going to vote no to the motion in just the fact that I love the design of the building, nice work. But as people know, I'm opposed to facade improvements because we don't have the definition of blight. To me, blight means a building that's vacant, that's falling down, that there's a lot of issues with that building that's going to improve. I don't see that in the current building. And this is taxpayers' money. No matter how you look at it, it's taxpayers' money and we're paying for it. The taxpayers are paying for it. If I was a business, I'd go out and get a loan and do it through a loan, so.
Who has their hand up?
The city recorder's had her hand up. I think it's a boo-boo. Unless you have a question. You're, okay, I figured. Because of who it is, I figured it.
Oh.
Okay.
I thought it was up for a reason.
No, it's been up since the meeting started, so I had a hunch it was just, the rigmarole of getting going.
It's a high five.
It's a high five. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
I guess to respond to Counselor Davis, I do appreciate that as a question of whether or not it is the responsibility of the city to sort of act as supplemental financing for, real estate improvements. But I don't know if that's a discussion, more of a philosophical discussion of where we want to do it. I hate to be in this situation where we're just approving some and not others. And I don't know if that would be more appropriate to go on to, if we wanted to have a discussion in the future to kill the program. But as far as I know, the program is active, and if we vote no on it while it's active, then that sort of just means somebody else could come and somebody could be in a different mood the next time or have a better, more obvious blight. And maybe I'm just talking out loud a little bit, trying to think it through at the moment. I don't know if we want to have the discussion. If we think that there's a problem with the definition of blight, maybe we should have that discussion of what the definition of blight is and update it so that the public can have a better idea of whether they apply for it or not.
Yeah.
So I guess if we want to have that discussion of redefining blight, then I think that's something that we probably should do. But other than that, I think we should approve it just because it's a program that seems to be currently available, and I don't want the last person that comes to be the loser because we decided to be more careful about the definition, so I guess I wanted to respond. But I do appreciate that, and actually, as a fundamental, I don't think that, I feel uncomfortable having public funds for private, we call it private inurement, where somebody in the public, somebody wins the funds of the private sector, but it's a program that's already been out there and approved.
Okay, thank you for that. At this time, I'm actually going to ask real quick, Ms. Palmer, was your comment regarding this particular project or the policy in general? Did you need to speak to this? Okay, so you don't need to speak to the motion at hand. Okay. All right. Very good points from both of you. I concur. I've not ever been really a fan of this program. But that being said, unless there's any other questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Aye.
Okay, so it passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. Very good. Nothing personal, it's just the program. I do love your building design, and I hope to see the dog after. And do come back in a month, and hopefully we'll be able to finish this project for you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is the end of the agenda, but I do have a comment card. I'm going to call up Ms. Palmer, who wants to speak to us about facade requests as a policy update.
Since I know we're running late on time,
That's okay.
running overtime,
We've been running behind all night. It's not your fault. Go ahead.
when is the district closing down? I've heard that comment a couple of times. And so maybe-
2026.
When?
25, 26.
Oh, okay, so there's a little time left. Last time I was before this group, I asked you all, most of you are new faces, but at least Tracy and the mayor are here, still here, if the city could fund a new reconnaissance level survey of the downtown area, that would be a historic survey of the properties to determine which ones are eligible or could be contributing in a historic district. And my concern in terms of facades is that if we're approving a facade that degrades a property to the point where it was contributing and eligible, and suddenly the new property owner has put in a request for a facade that's going to degrade that, it impacts not just only that property, but it impacts other property owners downtown who would be also eligible for a historic district. And thankfully, the Economic Development Department, Jamie and Tyler, came through, and we have a new reconnaissance level survey of the downtown. So we now have up-to-date data on all the properties downtown. And if you do not have a copy of that reconnaissance level survey, I encourage you to get one from the staff or talk to them about the link to where the survey is so you can take a look at it. There's a lot of really great information in there about our downtown area. And I'm going to pass out right now the contents so you get a feel for what's in the program or what's in the report, and also an example of one of the data pages.
Okay, thank you.
Two sheets there. So the policy update I'm looking for is that we make sure that when we're looking at facade improvements for any area where we've had a historic survey, downtown is one, Clackamas County Fairgrounds is another example. We've also done the south side of 99E, that the findings in the reconnaissance level or the intensive level surveys be considered as part of that decision-making process. And what the reconnaissance level survey does is tells us if a building is 50 years old, which is one of the criteria. It tells us if the building has historic integrity. So what we'd want to know as the committee considering the approval or disapproval of the facade improvement program was how does the facade improvement going to affect the historic integrity of the building? If it again destroys the historic integrity, then I think it's not right to use public funds to do that. So that would be the policy update, is basically making sure that you include the reconnaissance level survey in the analysis of the program.
Very good. I appreciate this.
You bet.
Carol, this is great. Any other comments for Carol or questions? Thank thank you. I honestly, I didn't know that this survey was done, so I will be looking for a link or a copy myself. So thank you very much for bringing that to our attention.
I believe I told you in my liaison report.
Well, I might not have heard you. I was still hearing your baseball report. Any other questions, comments, concerns for the good of the order? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn the URA meeting. It's been moved by Maldonado, seconded by Sassy. It's non-debatable. All those in favor? We're going to take 5 minutes, no, 3 minutes. I need to run the little girls' room. And then we will get started with the council meeting. Welcome back, Canby. We're going to get started with the city council meeting for July 17, 2024. If you please rise for invocation of allegiance. Father God, I thank you for the leaders that stand here beside me and the first responders that protect our fair city. I thank this community for being good citizens to one another and having each other's back. It's the Canby way, and we appreciate it every day of our lives. This country's gone under quite a bit of unrest as late, so I pray your protective hands over our entire country, but specifically our community, and may us just walk with peace and grace through our days. Thank you. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As you can see, we are without our mayor this evening. He is out of town at the Oregon Mayors Association Conference. So we wish him safe travels. He is down in Klamath Falls. He got there safely, so hopefully he has a good conference and returns home safely as well. First item on the agenda is new employee introductions. We have none tonight. Okay, thank you, Eileen. So that brings us to the presentation. We have a presentation for us tonight from the Canby Adult Center that's going to be presented to us by the director, Kathy Robinson. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. Just looking to make sure nobody else, none of my other council members join me. Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't think I've sat in these new chairs before. As a council president Hensley said, my name is Kathy Robinson. I've been the director at the Canby Adult Center for just a little over 15 years. I have the pleasure tonight, I have the chair of our board, Lauren Bell, over here, who's also, as well as a member of our board, Tim, who just stepped out, Tim Nichols. And also really pleased to have, hot off of a business trip, Mark Oldenkamp, who is the chair of the Board of Trustees of the Canby United Methodist Church. And I think even before I go into my little presentation, that more than anything is a sign that what I'm about to present to you and share is really, it's a story about a partnership more than a purchase or a sale, and that we're really excited about. For those of you, I think most of you know what the Canby Adult Center does. We've been in operation in Canby for almost 50 years. We're a private nonprofit. In that time, we're best known for our home delivered meals program. We've produced and delivered or served well over 1 million meals to Canby's older adult population in that time. We have many other services that are maybe less well-known. We have transportation every day. We run day trips. We have 5 different exercise classes that are tailored to older adults. We have recreation, we have games, we have movies, we have wellness, and as much as anything, it's fellowship between older adults and the community. Most of those services have been provided in the building that we occupy now that the City of Canby owns. We are truly, I'm sorry that there's no Public Works folks here tonight because we are so grateful for that partnership, and we see it every time I send an email or pick up the phone, particularly your Public Works staff and your Parks and Rec people. Poor Jeff Snyder, when I had to call him and say, the sprinklers aren't quite hitting the flowers that my volunteers just put in, can you come and adjust them? He was there within 2 hours. And so that's just such an example of how the city operates, and we're truly grateful for the partnership that we have with the city. Having said that, most of you know that our legal situation with the building is not ideal. We rent the building from the city, but the city in turn rents the land that it sits on from the school district. Tracy, you made a comment, Commissioner, about looking 10 years down the road and saying, what the heck did we do? I think today we're looking at something that made sense in the 1980s that is serving us less well now. The land is part of a large legal plot that also includes the pool, as you know, and at least part of the school district buildings. We were thrilled when the city was able to negotiate a 10-year lease with the school district because we really thought that that would afford us the opportunity to fundraise to remodel the building, which really, it, in essence, looks the same as it did in 1985 when it was first built. I got a real wake-up call after we spent significant amount of money on, we have a full design development set of plans from our architects. We're ready to go to bid. I went out and approached our first fundraising consultant, who point blank told me, call me when you own your building. Nobody's going to give you money to remodel a building that you don't own. The second consultant that we spoke to did not have a much more encouraging view, so I really felt stymied about what to do about this, that we were going to have to raise it dollar per dollar out of the local community alone. It seemed pretty intimidating. About that time, I got a cold call from a woman I'd never met, Pastor Marty Williams, who's the pastor of the United Methodist Church of Canby. She had heard that we had some space problems in our exercise room. Specifically, she wanted to have a conversation. And so 6 months later, here we are. The Adult Center, Mark and Lauren, signed a sales agreement a couple of weeks ago that really represents a partnership between the Adult Center and the United Methodist Church, whereby the Adult Center plans to buy the church and the parking lot, roughly half of the property. And the United Methodist Church will keep the green space on Ivy and Territorial, the community garden, the playground, picnic structure. We will share, obviously, parking lots, entrance, egress. This is exciting stuff for us. We've already done some of our due diligence. We've completed a building inspection. We've had a structural engineer look at that beautiful and unique sanctuary. And if you've not ever been inside, I encourage you to do so. It really is exceptional. Our architects have walked the building, and so have our staff. Everybody says this is going to work. The dining room's a little bigger. The kitchen is a lot bigger. We need to reconfigure some of the open spaces to get the office space that we need, and to make sure that we've got bathrooms that are compliant, but truly this space is exceptional. One of the most exciting parts about this is that sanctuary will be left intact, excuse me. We will change up some flooring. We intend to change up some flooring and some lighting. That will become our multi-purpose room during the week. Our biggest need is for more exercise space. This is what baby boomers want. And so that's where they'll get to do their exercise classes during the week, but the sanctuary will look like a sanctuary. And this is the cool part. The core of the partnership is that the United Methodist Church will continue to use it as they use it now. They'll continue to worship there, have their potlucks there for as long as indefinitely, forever if they want to, free of charge. This is part of our agreement. The Adult Center also intends to there's an afternoon church that meets there. They stay if they want to stay. The Canby Community Preschool stays if it wants to stay. We're actually pretty excited about the kinds of programming that we can do with little kids. If the community preschool is willing, we'd really love to have an opportunity to explore that with them. So partnership and shared space is what it's all about and what has us so excited. At this time, you all know property is at a premium in Canby. It's very expensive to acquire. It's very expensive to build. And so here we have an opportunity to take a building that really is primarily used on the weekends. We need use during the week, and we can all use it together. We have a lot to do. It's not a done deal. We have not closed on this at all. I mentioned that we hope to split the property in two. The church has already submitted, or in the process of submitting, an application to partition the land. And on our part, we just today finally have finalized our choice of a consultant to help us with our conditional use permit. All of these things will eventually come before council, and we really hope to have your support in getting those to go through so we can start on the actual work. I had to laugh a little when Eileen said to me, bring any renderings you have for us to see, and I'm like, we are so far away from that. And one thing I will say truly, and I'm looking especially at you, Councilor Davis, you have been such a supporter of the Adult Center for so long that it was a struggle to decide to have to keep this quiet. But honestly, we felt like until we knew that this was something that we could come to an agreement on at least, that we really needed to keep it quiet. You and Eileen got the call before the ink was dry. You really did. And so we appreciate your patience with that. Just a couple of final notes. Councillor Patton mentioned, he asked a really legitimate question about the fact that the building was built with community development block grant funds and if there are restrictions on those. While I obviously don't have a legal eye, I did spend a half a day today digging through our very oldest, dustiest box files and have surfaced the 1982 agreement between the city and Clackamas County and the 1994 agreement between the city and the county for the addition that has that language in it. So I'll pass copies of that over. It looks to me like this is fixed, that part is fixable. And I shared with you the emails I just had today with the HUD representative at Clackamas County. Again, this isn't done. I know that council is not going to wait long to have plans for the building if we are able to vacate it. Please be patient with us while we finalize this and figure out what our remodeling plan looks like. And finally, just to note, the council had approved $500,000 in ARPA funds for the remodel of the current building. And I certainly understand if those funds, if you decide to keep those funds with the building, I understand funds are tight. However, this council did vote to use those funds to ensure a safe and accommodating space for older adults. And I ask that you at least consider keeping those funds with the adult center that we can invest in a new space that is ours for good, permanent, and with our name on it. This all started with a conversation 6 months between two wild and gray-haired middle-aged women who take their dogs to work. If you haven't met Pastor Marty, please do so. She is a delight, and she has a dog that's a lot bigger and crazier than mine, and she takes hers to work every day too. We dreamed up a pretty big dream, and we really hope that you'll help us to make it a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions for Kathy while she's up here? Okay. Thank you.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, I especially like that, what you mentioned about the preschool, the potential and probability of them staying there for years on this council. It's one of my aspirations, one of my goals or dreams was to have some kinds of programs where the younger and the older can be together and, reading together, learning how to craft things or learning old trades or whatever, baking cookies together. The potential of that happening just warms my heart. So.
I can see them in our morning Tai Chi class in that sanctuary intermixing with those older adults, and what a blast that'll be. It's right up there with goat yoga in my books.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. Councilor Davis.
Yeah, Kathy, thank you for the presentation. And, I've truly enjoyed being the liaison to the Adult Center and the work that your board has done, and specifically yourself for bringing the services to our seniors within our community, and everything that you do to make sure that the seniors are taken care of. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Okay. Next up on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Citizen input.
Oh, sorry, I had none on here, and now we have one, okay. I had a little highlighted, this is none at this time, but now at this time, we have Carol Palmer.
Yes.
Coming up before us again.
Can you put this in for, I'm using photo in there. And then start passing that around.
She brought props. Good evening again.
Hello again. And I do have to say that those windows in the church are the original ones that came from the original Methodist church here in Canby. So I'm so glad you're going to preserve that. So when Emmerich was doing the construction project on the old City Hall, the Holly Street City Hall, one of the things that they were very careful about, which maybe the first contractor wasn't quite as careful, was they were very careful about making sure that any fixtures that they took out or anything they found behind walls, and they found a lot, and anything they found in drawers or cupboards was set aside and saved so that Mary Hanlon could take a look at it and figure out what, if it had any significance, and shared some of it, a lot of it with Chief Davis and the fire department. And one of the things that they found was the plaque that I'm passing around right now. And if you can put that up so everybody else can see it, that would be great. And I was thrilled to have her give that to me. It was great because I don't know how many of you know who the gentleman is. Well, you can't read it very well up there, but it's Harold Wyman. Do any of you know who he is? First city administrator.
First city administrator.
Yes, hired in 1973. So for me, it's historically significant because post-World War II, the whole nation went through a significant economic growth, significant population growth, and of course, this was the rise of the suburban dream, and this was the time of the consumer economy, which we all are living with now. And things changed a lot here in Canby, and the city council for 8 decades prior to this had been not only the policy body, but also the operational overseers of the city. And obviously, with all of this change, things were becoming much more complicated. Things were much bigger, problems were bigger, and so there was a need to take a different path. One of the things that I loved is Belinda Goody found in the files at the Chamber of Commerce in 1968 survey, community survey of the town. People were asked for their opinion. And of course, they wanted more. They wanted more parks. They wanted a hotel. They wanted more recreation.
Really?
Yeah, really. They wanted a bigger library, all those sorts of things. But they really weren't really willing to pay for a lot of that. You could tell that.
Nothing new under the sun, is there?
Yeah, no, there's not. And this is 1968. Yeah, we're still waiting for that hotel. Anyway, so one of the things that was really fun about this, and then knowing that Harold was hired when he was, is that this is really symbolic of a transformation for this community at that time. It really changed. I mean, the community had obviously changed, but this was sort of the exclamation point on that. So I was really delighted to find this or have Mary give it to me, but I, as a historian, don't believe that things like this should be in private homes. So I'm here to give it back to the city and say, I'm hoping that you put this someplace where everybody can see it, but also it needs a little bit of interpretive signage, because as you can see, Harold is way down at the bottom. And he was hired in '73. He actually died while he was still on the job. I mean, it wasn't an on-job death, but he was still employed. And but it was 9 years, yeah. He had a long tenure. And the city council had a hard time replacing him. He came to the body with a lot of background. He had been a city administrator someplace else, so he knew his stuff. And actually, after he left in '82, there was a series of about 5 years there where they went through about 3 or 4 city managers. So he was, I think, very successful and had a big, everything I've read about him said that he was very popular with the city council. So I think this, if it's going to go on a wall somewhere, it needs some interpretive signage. And I would be happy to work with whoever you want me to work with to do that. So.
Okay. Thank you
Enjoy.
so much.
You bet.
What a wonderful gift.
Yeah. I will give it back to you.
Thank you, Carol. Is there anyone online for any further citizen input, Teresa? Okay, and I have no further yellow cards.
Council President Hensley, I move to approve the June 19th, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Maldonado and seconded by Councilor Davis to approve the consent agenda that includes the approval of the June 19th, 2024 regular city council meeting minutes. Any discussion?
No.
I do have one point on in the minutes approving the consent agenda from that meeting. The appointment of Deanna Ball-Carb to the Traffic Safety Commission. Her name is misspelled. It's Carb with a B, not Carm with an M. So if that could be corrected. And then we will approve them as amended, if the motion maker and seconder agree.
Agreed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
We should have opposed that.
Stop. Okay, now we get, I don't have any, oh, you know what, they're probably in his drawer. Okay. Let me get the right annexation, work session. Which one do I need? Legislative, I think that's what I'm doing, right? Okay, we're going to open a public hearing. We have a public hearing regarding ordinance number 1627, adopting the housing needs analysis. So, the matter presented before the hearing body requires a public hearing. All interested persons in attendance shall be heard on the matter. If you wish to testify on this matter, please fill out a yellow public testimony card and give it to the city recorder. At the appropriate time, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and interest in the matter. Those people that are interested in testifying as either proponents or opponents, please indicate your desire to speak by raising your hands at this time. Seeing none. Longer presentations, proponents and opponents may buy time from one another. In doing so, those in favor or opposed may allocate their time to a spokesperson who will represent the entire group. All questions must be directed through the council president. Any evidence to be considered must be submitted to the hearing body for public access. All written testimony received both for and against shall be summarized by staff and presented briefly to the hearing body during the staff report. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. Staff report, questions, if any, by the hearing body or staff. Open public hearing for the testimony. Proponents will have not more than 3 minutes. Opponents, not more than 3 minutes. Close the public hearing. Questions, if any, by the hearing body, and then discussion by the hearing body. A decision shall be made by the hearing body at the close of the hearing, or the matter will be continued to a date certain in the future. This will be the only notice of that date you will receive. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure of the hearing?
Nope.
Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Hello, John.
Good evening, Council President Hensley and Mayor Hodson and council members. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the housing needs analysis and the culmination of the process we've been working on for a couple years here. Before I get started, I wanted to introduce Todd Chase, who's next to me. He's with FCS. He's the principal and economist and has been leading this work. I think Kelly Reed's online, and she's with Department of Land Conservation and Development. She's the regional representative, and she's just here to answer questions tonight. I just wanted to give an overview, and this is another refresh. We've been giving updates periodically on this, but just a refresh, like why are we here and what is the purpose of the housing needs analysis? Every jurisdiction in Oregon needs to do the housing needs analysis process, and that's to look at the next 20 years and the population forecast in the next 20 years. For Canby, that's roughly 6,000 new residents over the next 20 years. And so based on that, there has to be a buildable lands inventory that assesses the amount of acreage that's available for accommodating that 6,000 population forecast, and also to look at urban growth boundary expansion areas that are needed if it cannot be accommodated. It's a rather involved process, and we've been working diligently with DLCD on this, at least over the last year in this process. I wanted to kind of give a summary, and then I'm going to turn it over to Todd to give some technical assessment of this. So it's really two things. It's looking at the acreage that's needed over the next 20 years, and it's also looking at housing type by income. So there's a mix of housing type, and so that's looking at things like what part would be single-family residential? What's the demand for that? What's medium-density residential? What's multifamily residential? What are those forecasted needs over the next 20 years as well? I just wanted to kind of, summarize here, and Todd will go into the detail of how the calculation, we came up with the calculation, but ultimately it's about 73 acres of urban growth boundary expansion that would be needed over the next 20 years. Like I said, this 2-year process, we've been involved with this, and we've gone through and looked at in your packets, consistency has been described with the comprehensive plan, transportation system plan, transportation planning role, and statewide planning goals. There's been extensive public outreach on this process. There were 4 advisory group meetings, 2 open houses, 2 community surveys, 2 joint planning commission city council work sessions, 3 city council work sessions, 5 planning commission work sessions, 2 Canby Herald articles, and many meetings with DLCD staff and our consulting team. I just wanted to kind of summarize, the Planning Commission is making a recommendation of approval. That's in your packets as well. Their one comment regarding the acreage for over the next 20 years is they were requesting that we do yearly monitoring of the consumption of land over each year to make sure that we still have adequacy of land over the next 20 years to meet the population projections. And we would be doing that anyway. We need to report out. Department of Land Conservation and Development is already requiring us to do that. Ryan Potter, our planning manager, is getting a lot of good data, and we're really trying to track that information. It is possible for us to redo the housing needs analysis, as needed in this process. So that's just one of those pieces of the monitoring part of that. We are seeking your motion of approval tonight for this. This is another milestone, just like the economic opportunity analysis, which is the other leg of this, which is the business side of it, and acreage has already been determined for economic opportunity analysis. This is the housing needs analysis. It is thematically quite important in the urban growth boundary process that we are going through here to do that. And if you have questions as we get into the meat of the discussion tonight, we're glad to answer those. This is kind of a high-level overview. We can get way into the weeds. I think we've talked a lot about this with you all, and I don't think you necessarily want to hear all those details, but we're glad to provide that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Todd, and I'm going to give you the clicker.
All right. Well, it's always a great opportunity to be here in Canby. I always get a deja vu feeling because I worked on your urbanization study 30 years ago when Michael Jordan was administrator. And since then, I've done a number of projects along the way, and it's great to come and see that you still managed to retain your small town charm in the wake of kind of all the growth that's going on around the region. So it's great to see that. I've been doing real estate development and planning for about almost 40 years now. And I've always said that, the 2 hardest things before I moved to Oregon 30 years ago was to develop or to relocate a railroad, or next would be a cemetery. And now I'm going to add urban growth boundaries to the list. It takes time consuming. You have to be patient, very diligent, deliberate. But we're kind of getting to that point now in Canby because it's been so long since you've had that conversation. So as Don mentioned, and the staff at the city has been really helpful. We've done these types of projects all over Oregon, Washington, other states, and I find the staff here has been probably, the most attentive to detail and responsive and on top of the data, and it's hard to see that in a lot of cities we work, so it's wonderful that you've done that. And so we're just going to touch on a few things. I know you've probably seen this, but for the benefit of folks that might be listening in from afar, we'll touch on the key assumptions. We'll talk about the housing need for the next 20 years. We're really focused on housing needs by income level in this go-around more than ever before, given that the housing kind of dilemma we have throughout the nation, and especially in Oregon. We focus on that. It's now a state requirement and should be, as we look at housing demand by type and income level, to make sure that people have opportunities at all levels to have a house, whether it's rental or ownership. We're going to look at the urban growth boundary requirements and based on what you have inside the current boundary and how it's planned for future development and how that plan compares to the need and what gap we have before us. Don touched on the outreach effort, so I don't need to go into that. We'll start off with the supply, which is the buildable land inventory, and then we'll talk about the demand, which is the housing needs for 20 years to meet that population growth of nearly 6,000 people, bringing you up to just under 25,000 people in 20 years as a city. And then the sufficiency of the urban growth boundary. This map in the report does show the remaining vacant, part vacant, and redevelopable land supply inside the urban growth boundary that is planned for housing. And there's other parcels on there that have been shaded that are in various pipeline developments, and we'll talk about that as well. In terms of the buildable land inventory, we have approximately 221 buildable acres, and that's when we exclude things that, to the degree we have slopes and wetlands, we pull that out. Existing homes on a part vacant site, we've pulled out the pad for that existing home. And we've made some adjustments for high-value properties, we'll talk about that, and other types of adjustments we can make to come up with what we think is a buildable inventory. Seems like a lot, but given the growth, it's not going to be quite enough to accommodate all the population growth for those 6,000 people, we feel. In addition to 221 acres, there's 65 acres in various stages of construction. Building permits or site development permits have been issued on those 65 acres, so we have a good handle on that. And as we dissect the buildable land inventory, you'll see that the majority is in the part vacant category, which means there's already a valuable structure on the site, and the homeowner would have to opt to basically partition the site to see it developed. We have 53.5 acres in vacant and about 3.4 acres in redevelopable, where the value of the land is greater than the value of the improvements on the site, so likely to be redeveloped. This also shows that information by comprehensive plan designation. You can see the majority of it is in the low-density residential category. And we have some in 37 acres in medium density, and then about 5.4 acres in higher density, and 4.4 acres in mixed use, which allows a mix of housing and commercial. Since we published the draft in November, we fine-tuned the methodology based on the input we received from both DLCD as well as the public weighing in on the draft and staff. And just a quick comparison, the main items that might have changed or stayed the same. Pipeline development in the buildable land inventory really didn't change much. We still have 412 dwelling units in the pipeline in various stages of construction, and we added about 1.6 acres of land that has been fully developed to the pipeline, so we pulled that out of the buildable land inventory since November. In terms of the part vacant land that's considered to be buildable, we did work with DLCD to come up with a strike price analysis. And the interesting thing about Oregon is, each city kind of learns from other cities when they do this analysis. We learned from Bend, we learned from Newburgh, Medford in this case, had an innovative way of approaching this with this strike price, where part vacant land, which has a house that's under 5 acres in size, if the value of the structure is greater than the average for developed similar properties in Canby, we've considered it to basically be constrained within the 20-year time period, not likely to develop because of the high-value property on the site. Other properties are considered to be buildable and included in the part vacant inventory. And so that did remove about 73 acres from our part vacant land inventory from what we published in November. And so our overall buildable land inventory, after we considered the new pipeline adjustments, came to about, as I mentioned, 221 acres. So we were able to kind of focus that a bit from what we had in November in this current final draft. We've been tracking the home prices in Canby. I believe I looked today, and the sales value has gone up to about $580,000 this month in Canby. It's still about 6.5 times the household income level, so it's still very high compared to national averages and even probably statewide averages in terms of a ratio of home values to income levels. We have noticed that rental rates tend to increase and wages are not necessarily keeping up with the home prices that are going up in the area. We've also been tracking the percentage of households that are paying over half of their income on rent. And this chart shows that approximately 29% of the households in Canby that are rental households are paying over half of their income in rent. And that's higher than the state average of about 27%. Or 26%, and the county average of 27%. And it's gone up considerably when we started this work in 2022 from about 17%, which was the latest number we got when we started this project. And it's consistent with what we heard from the public when we were doing the outreach. As we look at the housing need by housing type to reflect the income levels in the community, we see that we can kind of allocate the demand by housing type to maximize affordability as we plan for future growth. Still about 62% would be single family, which is consistent with what's on the ground today in terms of a percentage of homes that are single family. But the majority of those would trend more towards smaller lots. Household sizes tend to get smaller. People are delaying starting families. People are living longer as empty nesters. It's kind of pushing down the home size requirements. And so we do see that kind of a continuing trend. So we have a mix of single-family standard lot and single-family small lot in the forecast. We also have a fairly equal split between townhomes, plexes, versus multifamily apartments in our demand forecast. Both can be condos, both could be ownership options as well as rental options. So we pulled out the pipeline from 412 units from the total demand of 2,286 units to come up with a remaining amount of demand for homes, 1,873 on the vacant land inventory, and then we'd applied density levels, which is units per acre by housing type, to come up with actually what we consider to be land requirement, net buildable land for homes. And as you might recall, we've been looking at this density requirement two different ways. We looked at it with parks included in the public facilities requirement for the land and without the parks element included. So when you have net buildable land needs, in addition to that site for the house, you also probably have some land for the roads, any water, sewer utilities to feed the development, and potentially parks. And so working with staff, we really were able to look at every approved subdivision and minor partition over the last several years to come up with really good numbers for each housing type in Canby, to come up with these net and gross buildable land requirements by housing type. And what we concluded was that you would need approximately 294 acres to accommodate the housing demand. And you can see how that varies by housing type. And then we compare that to what's in the buildable land inventory in terms of planned development to see whether you have a surplus or deficit for each housing type. And we did find a deficit for each housing type, totaling about 73 acres. And this is for land requirements for everything other than the parks to accommodate that growth. When we did this work back in November, again, to kind of refresh you kind of how things changed, we had 3 different conversion scenarios of the buildable land inventory. And this is before we really understood how to quantify this strike price analysis. And each scenario resulted in a different finding. So we were kind of trying to understand kind of the range of what we could actually justify for a buildable land or an urban growth boundary requirement. And it ranged from a deficit of 14.5 acres to 250 acres. We weren't sure. And as we fine-tuned the analysis, you can see we looked at it 2 different ways, with and without the parks included in the public facility, and we came up with a deficit of 73 acres. This does seem low compared to what we've been hearing from the public, but it is probably very consistent with what we consider to be kind of safe harbor estimates in terms of planning requirements in Oregon. Probably not, hopefully not likely to be challenged, so you won't end up in a case like Bend or Newburgh, where you kind of spend umpteen hours and years trying to fine-tune this analysis again. So we feel pretty confident that 73 acres is a really good number. We have that by housing type in this slide, showing that we need about 57 acres for single family, about 8 acres for townhomes and plexes, another 8 acres to 9 acres for multifamily. Really focused on the needs for those types of uses. So the next steps would be to, if the council approves the housing needs analysis, city's going to continue, staff's going to continue to come up with housing efficiency measures, which could potentially lower the land need a bit more than what we've assumed so far. We've already assumed that the housing efficiency measures that you've already adopted would increase density to some degree, add potentially 60 units of housing inside the urban growth boundary, because now you allow townhomes in low-density zones, for example. And so that has already been factored into our numbers. But to the degree you have additional housing efficiency measures, that could even, lower the land need a bit more. So we've gone through the Planning Commission. Here we are at the council. And then we'll come back to the City and Planning Commission with the housing efficiency measures in the fall. And that's about it.
And I just wanted to add to Todd's information. I think on the one thing that's important on the 73 acres of urban growth boundary, the calculation of that was looked at in concert with the LCD and looked at in relation to other jurisdictions that have been successful on going through their housing needs analysis without appeal, and those have been approved. So that methodology is one that has been tested. The other point I wanted to make is to date, we haven't received any written comment of either Planning Commission or for this hearing tonight. We did have some oral testimony at the Planning Commission from one person, and that was, the concern was reflected in the distribution of the different housing types that, and, wanting to make sure that, that there was enough low-density residential land that would still be available for that type of housing product type, but that was essentially the comment. So with that, we're open to questions if you have them, and we can go into further detail.
Okay, any questions from the council for Dawn or Councilor Stearns?
So just to back up for people watching or this, what we're doing right now is trying to increase the urban growth boundary, and we're trying to make a proposal of 73 acres for it to be increased. Is that, am I understanding correct?
That's correct. Based on the demand that, on the acreage demand that's needed for that, and there's a lot of metrics that go into that, but it's
Based on forecasting,
Yes,
you're trying to
exactly.
forecast
Yes. Yeah.
what people want to do for the next 20 years.
And can I just add too, this is considered to be buildable acres. To the degree there's land in slopes, land along the river, that's not necessarily buildable, it could add to that number.
Okay, okay. So we're doing that, and so right now, our goal is to predict within 20 years what, how, so first, to make sure my understanding is, at least my tiny brain can grasp the beginning and the end of it. So when we do this housing needs analysis, are we stuck with this for the next 20 years? Or is that basically says that we cannot visit this topic again until 2044? Is that what we're saying?
And I'm going to let Kelly weigh in if she needs to, but I understand we could do this every year if we wanted to, if we wanted to repeat this process. So I don't think we want to do
Lord,
that.
no.
Well, I'm just saying what, but like 5 years or down the line or
Yeah,
something.
no, it's not a 20-year lock-in. No, it's, yeah. We don't want to do it next year. Yeah.
Well, I'm just wondering, because what, are we painting ourselves into a corner? It's kind of the question is, because I don't think that most people's 20-year predictions come out exactly as they predict it. And one where and it's the system in Oregon, basically, but by restricting development in Oregon, we are driving up the prices of housing. So you talk about demand and pricing, but the supply dictates the demand as much as the demand.
And I would like to, balance that slightly. The buildable lands analysis process, in my opinion, is intended to balance some of that out. But, it's the driver really isn't land supply. I would agree with your assessment. I think it's important to recognize that there is a land already in our boundary, in our current city limits and in our current boundary, and this is additive to that. So my perspective is, if there is a large consumption of this land, we're going to see that as we measure this each year. And if we start to see like, whoa, this thing is not 20 years of supply, it's more like 10, we should be then like looking at that yearly saying, what's the percentage? And we could even like look at that from that perspective, like over 20 years, what should that be based on the acreage that we already established? And we'll know what that is. So that would be reflected. I would fully anticipate we'd be reporting out to council each year saying, what's that? And then what would the benchmark be for that, over a 20-year horizon? So we would know, are we in red zone or are we like in green zone on like the consumption rate?
Yeah, and okay, that's just good to know that we're not, and just may I understand the process, we're not just saying that this is what's going to happen 20 years from now, hope it works, sort of projection. I always think it's really backward thinking that Oregon has, where they create a problem by restricting land supply, which causes housing prices to go up, and then they have to go solve the problem by deliberately creating low-income housing to solve a problem that was created by the law system the way it is. But I guess that's beyond the ability of us to change that at this point. So anyway, thank you for your.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Don. Looks like we have no other questions, so public hearing is open. Are there any proponents? Seeing none. Any opponents? I see none. Anyone online, Teresa? I will close the public hearing. Any other questions by the hearing body? Discussion? Wow, seems pretty cut and dried then.
I said what I wanted to say.
Okay, then we'll go to the next item on the agenda, which would be the ordinance number 1627. I will accept the motion if someone is so inclined.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt ordinance 1627, an ordinance authorizing to approve the housing need analysis and incorporating the HNA into the Canby Comprehensive Plan to a second reading on August 7th, 2024.
Motion's been made by Councilor Davis, seconded by Councilor Maldonado to approve ordinance number 1627, an ordinance adopting the housing needs analysis as part of the City of Canby Comprehensive Plan, TA 23-03, CPA 2401, to a second reading on August 7th. All those in favor? Any discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's 5-0. August 7th. Next meeting, yes. Very good. Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinance number 1625, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to county city insurance in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for liability insurance coverage. This is a second reading. We have Kevin. Do you have any new information for us this evening?
President Hensley?
Yes.
Could, after this item, could we move down to item G on the agenda? We have some people waiting that we could get them out of here sooner if we did.
It's the resolution establishing the monitoring of that program.
Anybody here have any problem with that? Okay, we will deal with item B, and then we'll move to G, and then back to C, because, you know, what's the alphabet? We don't care. Kevin, do you have anything new to offer?
Nothing new, just moving forward to the second reading for ordinance number 1625.
Okay, does anybody have any questions, or do you all remember what this is about? Counselor Stearns?
I just have a question, and this is general about the insurance. Is there anything that the city could be doing to increase their rating to reduce costs, or how are we right now as far as rated for?
Yeah. We already have really good rates, and one of the other strategies we're doing is increasing our limits, our deductibles, so that then that's bringing down our premium amount as well.
Okay.
So we had really low like auto limits like at $100, and it's like we're not having that many claims. Let's increase that to $500 or $1,000 and save money on the premiums as well.
Okay. So right now you're trying to get the deductibles increased. I think that's smart. We don't really want to insure the $100 thing.
Right.
That's just a budget for repairs.
Yeah, and doing the same with property as well.
Well, we did hear the full presentation at the last meeting, so do you have any other questions or concerns, any heartburn over it for the last couple of weeks? Accept the motion.
Okay, I move to adopt ordinance number 1625, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to extend payment to city county insurance, CIS, in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for liability insurance coverage for fiscal year 24-25.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Davis, seconded by Councilor Maldonado to adopt ordinance number 1625, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to the county city insurance, CIS, in the amount not to exceed $500,000 for liability insurance coverage for fiscal year 24-25. Roll call vote, please.
Councilor Maldonado,
Yes, sorry.
Council President Hensley,
Aye.
Councilor Davis,
Aye.
Councilor Stearns,
Aye.
Councilor Sassy,
Aye.
All right, that passes 5-0. We are going to skip the loo down to item G. We're going to consider resolution number 1417, a resolution establishing a memorial tree and bench program. And it looks like we have Mr. Ryan that's going to present this.
Yes, good evening, Council Chair Hensley and members of the council. This item is a memorial tree and bench program. This is a program that was developed and written by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. So it's definitely proof of their hard work and dedication. The idea was that in the past, the city has taken memorial dedications for trees or planters or benches or items like that in our public spaces, but we've always done that in a more ad hoc kind of case-by-case basis. The Parks Board, in this case led by Kara Hawkins, who's joining me here, saw that there was an opportunity to memorialize a program that was more consistently implemented. And part of that idea was to encourage the practice of doing this, both to enhance our park spaces and give people an opportunity to kind of add some personal investment into those places by dedicating a bench or a tree after a loved one. So what was in your packet was the program that was written by Kara and the Parks and Recreation Board, along with the proposed application that one could apply to dedicate a bench or a tree. If you read through the program, you could see that there is a few placeholders on cost. And this was so that the Public Works Department could come back later and define those costs. They've been talking to a range of suppliers that they could acquire the benches and trees from. And the idea would be that they would come back later and have those fees added to our master fee schedule. So the council would see those fees when they were added to the fee schedule. But the Parks and Recreation Board was motivated to get this in front of you because they wanted to get the program going and get people excited about it. So if you have any questions, myself and Kara are both here if you have any.
I actually have one, and then I'll come to you. I understand completely why the placeholders are there, because we don't have costs. But we're not going to wait until the next master fee schedule to implement this, are we? Or that would be a whole nother year out.
Yeah, I think if there's an earlier opportunity where we do a package of amendments to our master fee schedule, I think we would try to get that in there so that we could start implementing it.
So say someone wants to apply for this next week, what would one do?
I think Jerry would probably hold on to that, and I think there's probably an opportunity for them to do a one-off and just do it at cost, so they could still do it, but the goal would still be to get it in the master fee schedule, so it's a more known
Sure.
amount.
Okay, that makes sense. Councilor Maldonado.
I just had a question about the benches. Are we limited, or are the applicants limited to types of benches that they are able to have? Or is there a specific style that we keep with to keep them more uniform, or how do we go about that?
Kara might be able to expand on this, but my understanding was Jerry, our Public Works Director, was looking to standardize it, so they would have a preferred vendor, which would bring down costs because we could order multiple at a time.
We got prices from 3 different vendors, 2 here in Canby and 1 in Baker City. They were all asked to give us prices for a square picnic table, a rectangular picnic table, a bench with a back, and a backless bench. And we also gave them some drawings of kind of what we were sort of thinking as far as style. And then they all each came back to us with their specific drawing. And those were submitted to Jerry, or with the, so he has all of the emails from all of the companies with the prices and their drawings. So, and the idea is that once a vendor is selected, then all of the products would be gotten from them from then on.
So they would have options as to which one they would use, a backed or a picnic table?
Correct, but in you may have read that the city has final say on any item that is placed, so.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, anything else? Councilor Davis?
Kara, thank you. Having sat in on a lot of the meetings, you had a vision and wanted to see this happen, and you brought it through. So thank you for your work on this.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay. And I don't see any questions or comments, so I'll take a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 1417, a resolution establishing a memorial tree and bench program.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Sassy and seconded by Councilor Maldonado to adopt resolution number 1417, a resolution establishing a formal memorial tree and bench donation program. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Okay. Well, now Jerry's going to have some more work when he gets back. He is on vacation this week, a much-deserved vacation. Oh, and Jerry Nelzine has celebrated 20 years with the company. With the company, with the city. Well, we're company, kind of.
We're a business.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, you guys.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Kara. And thank you, young man, I unfortunately don't know your name.
Mr. Simnett.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. All right. Moving back to item C.
B.
Item B,
B, sorry. See, I told you to throw the alphabet out the window.
Kevin back at the table.
Hello again, Mr. Aguilar. How are you?
Not giving up my seat this time.
Guess we won't kick you out now until we're done. Are you on here anywhere else? Maybe we just keep you there till all your pieces are done.
He's here for the next
Got the
item
next
as
two.
well.
Okay, we're just going to keep you there. All right. We're here to hear about 1626 now.
Yep. Second reading for the renewal of our workers' comp insurance with Safe Corporation. And that 114 also includes our volunteers, which was passed as a separate ordinance, but it's included in that price amount.
This is a second reading, so we heard the presentation a couple of weeks ago. Do you have any additions for us, Kevin?
No additions.
Any additional questions from council? I'll accept a motion.
I move to adopt ordinance number 1626, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to SAIF, a corporation, in the amount not to exceed $114,493.71 for workers' comp coverage for fiscal year 24-25.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilor Maldonado, seconded by Councilor Davis to adopt ordinance number 1626, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to expend payment to Safe Corporation in the amount of $114,493.71 for workman's comp coverage for fiscal year 24 to 25. Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Maldonado.
Aye.
Council President Hensley.
Aye.
Counselor Davis.
Aye.
Counselor Stearns.
Aye.
Counselor Sassy.
Aye.
That passes 5-0. Thank you. Moving to the next one, we have Kevin on deck again, and it looks like we're being joined by Chief Tro for ordinance number 1628.
First reading.
First reading.
Yeah, so first reading on this one, so should the city enter into an employment agreement with Captain Kitzmiller here present as well for the next 2 years immediately following his official retirement with PERS. So he's eligible for retirement as of any time now.
So a little background on Captain Kitzmiller. Captain Kitzmiller has been with the City of Canby a little longer than Jerry, 26 and a half years now with us, and we don't want to let him go yet. He held every rank in our police department, from patrol officer to detective to patrol sergeant to detective sergeant to captain, and seriously, I could not do my job without him. He is that good. I think if you look up the definition of police officer, it should say Doug Kitzmiller, because he was born with it. His father is a retired Oregon City police officer. Prior to here, he was a parking enforcement officer in Oregon City. So he has actually he'll have over 30 years in PERS. So,
Wow.
yes.
So
Captain,
for
you
all
got
of his
anything to
work,
say?
you're going to offer him a fake retirement. You can retire, but you cannot leave. That's what we're offering him, okay.
We're going to hold on to him. That's what it is.
This is a Hotel California situation here.
Are we ready for motion?
I am.
Yep.
Unless anybody has any questions.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, I move to adopt ordinance 1628, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into an employment agreement between the City of Canby and Captain Doug Kitzmiller to a second reading on August 7th, 2024.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Davis and seconded by Councilor Maldonado to approve ordinance number 1628, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into an employment agreement between the City of Canby and Captain Doug Kitzmiller to a second reading on August 7th, 2024. Any further discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes, Councilor Stearns.
And then it's more of a policy question. Why does this come to the city council, or isn't normal hiring? Aren't we, as a city council, not supposed to interfere in employment matters?
It's actually a work back contract.
What? It's what?
It's a work-back contract, which is over the signing authority, that's why.
Okay, so that's the reason why. I was just wondering why if we started doing,
He will technically be, if I understand this correctly, we've done this before, he'll be an independent contractor, not an employee of the city.
so he'll get a 1099 or he'll be on the payroll still?
No, so it's
It's a funky thing.
It still remains as an employee.
Okay.
I work with David through this as well because it's a.
I'm just making sure I
Yeah,
understand.
no, there's other cities who don't have to bring it forward as an employment agreement to the council because of their assigning authority at the city administrator or manager level. Because ours is so low, it exceeds that threshold.
Okay.
So we have to bring it forward to enter that agreement because of the amount.
But he will be still considered.
Still an employee, still the same benefits, everything.
All the same benefits, but I understand we're not doing the 6%.
Correct,
PERS.
there is some
So
savings
there's
there.
so little savings there, okay.
Yeah, some savings with PERS. And then the employee is responsible for ensuring compliance with PERS requirements. So for now, they've extended it through 2034. And if they change something in that program, I mean, we'll have to revisit things.
And he has the option to retire. Is that correct?
No, he won't let him leave, you just heard him.
No, I'm just making sure.
Okay, no, that was just, I just wanted to make sure I clarified.
All right, any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. That'll be second reading at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Dawn's back up. We're going to hear about ordinance number 1629.
Good evening again, council members. This is an ordinance that is reflective of the budget that we went through the budget review committee with for our fiscal year 24-25 scope of work related to the comprehensive plan, the transportation system plan, and the urban growth boundary processes. And so we're going through this exercise to have the ordinance adopted by council members. I can go into any level of detail you'd like on that, but that's essentially the gist of what we're requesting tonight.
Any questions regarding this item? This will come up for, this will come up again in 2 weeks, so, for a second reading.
And just, you know,
We can doodle it.
the total amount is $228,938 is for fiscal year 24-25.
So this is
Sorry,
the
what was
same
it?
issue, signing authority.
What was that number again?
228,938, yeah. And that's in the ordinance as well, that's in your packets.
Accept a motion.
Thank you. I'd like to move to adopt ordinance number 1629, an ordinance adopting the comprehensive plan, transportation system plan, and urban growth boundary scope of work and budget for fiscal year 24-25 with second reading on August 7th.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Sassy, seconded by Councilor Maldonado to approve ordinance number 1629, an ordinance adopting the comprehensive plan, transportation system plan, and urban growth boundary expansion scope of work for fiscal year 24-25 to a second reading on August 7th, 2024. All those in favor? Aye. 5-0. Next up, we have resolution number 1415. It's going to be a resolution authorizing the city administrator to sign an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Canby and Clackamas County for dial-a-ride services. And here for us, we have Todd Wood, transit director.
We have Heidi on the screen. Heidi did
Oh, there's Heidi.
She did all the work on this, but she's not feeling well, so we didn't want to get everybody sick, so she's gonna.
I thank you for
She's
that.
gonna be up there. Very simply, our dial-a-ride program currently covers only the urban growth boundary for the city of Canby. Plus, we also take people to and from Oregon City per our IGA with TriMet. The county's found itself in a position to have extra state transportation improvement fund dollars, but not enough to hire. They have their own dial-a-ride program called Transportation Reaching People. They don't have enough of that money to actually hire more employees to provide that service. So they're asking various transportation providers in Clackamas County if they can support the county in providing additional service outside of our normal area. So Heidi's got the map up there for us to show. We sat down with the county and mapped out an extended area that we could service for the county. So the calls would come into the county for dial-a-ride. They would then send them to us and then we'd service them. to the tune of about $150,000 over the next year. We did negotiate a rate that covers all of our contractor costs, all our fuel costs, and all our maintenance costs. So it basically is not costing us anything, and the county is covering it. We'll bill them monthly for every ride we provide on a daily basis, only Monday through Friday. So this is just the IGA that allows us to enter into that agreement. It still needs to pass county council, but since they're the ones that sent it to us, I'm assuming it will pass them without an issue. So,
Okay.
questions?
Any questions for Todd or Heidi? Yes.
So to heard it right, this is not going to cost the city anything?
No, we will bill them at a rate that covers all of our contractor costs, which is the driver, all the fuel costs, all the maintenance costs on the vehicle, so.
Okay.
The rest of the overhead costs we incur anyway for our normal service, those don't increase. It's just the driver, the fuel, and the maintenance that increase, and the county will cover 100% of those costs.
And you said for a year, is this a year-to-year trial situation? Or?
So the State Transportation Improvement Fund is every 2 years, but there's only 1 year left of it. So if it works out over this next year, they're going to apply for additional funds to continue this program because it works better for them than having their own employees to contract it out. So we will bring it back next year if they want to continue the program.
So it's kind of a pilot program here.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I think it's.
And just a tidbit, it's, in case people are watching about our dial-a-ride services, it's gonna be just like ours, but this will only run Monday through Friday. And they do have to do the applications through us as well to be accepted into the program.
Okay. All right.
I think it's kind of.
All right, thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Anyone?
I move to adopt resolution number 1415, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Clackamas County for dial-a-ride service.
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Sassy, seconded by Counselor Maldonado to approve resolution number 1415, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to sign the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Canby and Clackamas County for dial-a-ride services outside Canby urban growth boundary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0.
Last one.
All right, now we're moving on to resolution 1416, and Don's back.
Good evening again, council members. This is a resolution, so I'll give you a little background. The Oregon Department of Transportation provides transportation growth management grants. We have had conversation with them regarding our comprehensive plan and urban growth boundary processes. They have encouraged us to submit the grant. The grants require a resolution by council in support of the grant application. Wanted to give a little background as to what this would be, what this would be for. So our urban growth boundary process, initiation process, is anticipated to start next year in the summer of 25. This process would be concurrent and also following that process, which is, so we go through urban growth boundary process first, that gets adopted, and then we go through what's called conceptual planning, which identifies infrastructure, street systems, how things are going to be paid for, and then the final step is to reincorporate those areas into the comprehensive plan adoption, that those new areas get adopted back into our comprehensive plan. So this money would be used for conceptual planning at work. It would be in the order of magnitude of about $249,000 that the grant would be awarded to us. It'd be slightly under $250,000. I think it's had little risk for the city to enter into this, and all gain, in my opinion, based on the fact that the money is available and they're willing to provide it. And also, there aren't very many jurisdictions like Canby that are in the place right now where people are taking advantage of this, doing urban growth boundary expansions, and the timing works quite well. The money would actually be available this time next year. We'd start 25-26 and run through 26-27 for that. The city would need to provide a local match, which we can do in terms of labor. And what we would do is we have in our approved fee structure, we have a $125 an hour rate for staff that's blended rate, and so that would, over 2 years, so it'd be 100 hours per year. We could easily put that kind of time in, and so that would be our match for this, that amount. So 25,000 would be associated with a $250,000 grant, but that would, we just have to document that. We wouldn't have to give any cash. So my ask of you all tonight would be to support the resolution. We do need to submit the application by July 31st, and they do require the resolution to be part of that. DLCD actually has a different format, and you can do it later, but this one had some time sensitivity to it. So we would like to get the resolution to them.
Any questions for Don?
Madam President, I move to approve Resolution 1416. That's the right one, right? Okay. A resolution granting support for an Oregon Department of Transportation ODOT Transportation Grown Management TMG grant application for concept planning related to the urban growth boundary expansion.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved by Counselor Davis, seconded by Counselor Maldonado to approve resolution number 1416, a resolution granting support for an Oregon Department of Transportation Growth Management.
That should be growth.
I was going to say, I should say
Yeah.
growth.
Sorry,
Corporation.
our
Growth
typo
Management,
there.
TMG, grant application for concept planning related to the urban growth boundary expansion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's 5-0.
Thank you.
And Don, real quick, make sure I was correct. You said 250K.
The 200, it would be like 249,999. I mean, it's really, I don't know if it's exactly 250, but it's right.
I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure I wrote it down.
It comes under the small grants. That way, the large grants have a much more robust procurement process. This will give us the ability to select our consultants as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. We've already done the item G. So we're going to move on to old business. Eileen has updated info on the city attorney expenses.
Yeah, so a couple of items. First of all, we are just starting to draft the RFP for city attorney, so that work is just beginning. And then I just wanted to show you the contracted city attorney charges by month, and compare those with the cost of an annual or a monthly cost if we had the in-house city attorney still. So for fiscal year 23-24, we ended up spending about $142,000 on legal services, whereas for that same period of time, we would have spent $251,000 on in-house legal services. So we've spent quite a bit we've saved. We have spent quite a bit of money. But we have also saved quite a bit of money as well. Yeah.
Okay.
That spike in April has to do with some costs that we incurred for personnel investigations. So that's what that spike is about. But that we've come down to our more normal cost.
Right.
So.
But with that spike, I personally appreciate everything that Mr. Dukeman does for us, but in those funky little things that we have had come up, it's nice to have the expertise of other folks in the firm that can handle specific things that maybe isn't necessarily Mr. Dukeman's wheelhouse. We have that breadth of knowledge and experience to help us out through things, so I appreciate that. And cost savings is substantial, so I'm happy with the way things are. Any other comments? Councilor Davis.
Eileen, is this for the RFP, is this for putting it out for service for an outside agency?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Eileen?
Second item was, let me just make sure that we are in that spot, yes. So I asked David if he would give you a small briefing on the Supreme Court issue, grants pass versus Johnson. That was a pretty major ruling that came out of the Supreme Court, and I just wanted you to, get a little briefed on what what that means for cities in general. So, David.
I can take it away. All right, great. So I do have a little memo that's with the packet, and as Eileen said, I'll keep this relatively brief. I wish I had more, I guess, better news to report in terms of this case allowing you some more flexibility with this issue. Just to review, maybe for those that aren't familiar, a few years ago now, there was a case out of Grants Pass that challenged that city's ordinance with regard to camping on public property. And the challenge was basically brought by a group of homeless individuals. And in Grants Pass case, ultimately, the police department, as it would be true in most situations, could cite people that were camping illegally. And that ultimately in Grants Pass could lead to if there's enough citations ultimately for an individual, could lead to jail time. And so the argument in that case was potentially jailing somebody for camping on public property where they at least asserted they don't have any other place to stay would be cruel and unusual. As we know, or many of you probably know, the court in that case agreed. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals agreed. And so this was the Supreme Court's review of that case, and they reversed the Ninth Circuit and said it does not constitute cruel and unusual punishment. And so the question was, okay, well, does this allow then cities in Oregon to go, if they choose to go back to former standards that they have? And if it weren't for a state law that were passed sort of in the midst of the litigation over Grants Pass, and there's actually a companion case out of Boise, Idaho, then the answer would probably be yes, that the Supreme Court's decision would allow cities in Oregon to do that. But in light of the fact that there's a state law that was written in the middle of litigation, and that state law essentially, we'd say codifies in state law the holding of the Grants Pass case at the circuit and circuit court level, district court level, Ninth Circuit level. We now have that law to contend with. And really that is what will, unless that law is changed, is what we as cities in Oregon, you obviously included, will need to keep in mind when it comes to regulating camping on public property. And for all intents and purposes, what the Oregon law does would prohibit both potential jail time as well as excess fines. So we're sort of not really in any different place as a result of the Supreme Court's decision, and that's really what I summarized in the memo and wanted to update all of you on.
Okay.
And of course, if you have questions, I can take a run at this.
The one that comes to my mind, David, is does this preclude us from tightening up our current policy? We did pass a camping ordinance, if you will. Is there anything in the state law that would preclude us from tightening up the time, space, and manner requirements?
Depends on what you mean by tightening up, right? Not necessarily. It wouldn't prevent it, as a, just across the board. But what that would look like, the specifics certainly would matter.
Okay. Any other questions? I wish Councilor Padden was here this evening. I know that he wasn't able to because of travel issues. But this is something that I know he's also expressed interest in, so I would probably, we'll say punt for right now, but I'm feeling like this could be something I'd like a work session on in the future because of a particular thing that we didn't really address in the ordinance, and that would be, people camping with their tip outs hanging over the sidewalks, et cetera. So I just would like to revisit the conversation at a future date. Obviously, it's not emergent, but if you could make a note and we can put that on a future agenda, that'd be appreciated. Counselor Stearns and Counselor Davis. I saw those hands in that order.
No, I agree. I think we do need to talk about that as it pertains to our city and the best way to address and help the homeless people here in our city. And I seem to, when I see homeless people here in the obvious ones, there's people that are not obvious, but I always wonder if there's something that could be done. It'd be nice to have a work session with where we can just kind of toss around what the extent of the problem is, what are solutions available to us, and how we can address them in a legally appropriate manner. So probably Mr. Doofman would probably have to be at that work session.
I would agree. And Counselor Davis.
But just a comment, I would like to thank the Canby Police Department, Chief Churro, for the job that they've done in regards to enforcing our ordinance. You guys have done a good job with that.
I concur. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Doofman, for your assessment of this ruling. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Anything else on this subject? All right, we'll move into mayor's business, and the mayor's out of town with his business, so I will just give my brief report. First off, I don't think we've met since the 4th of July, so a huge shout out once again to our incredible city staff team, Public Works, law enforcement, all the volunteers, everyone involved with putting our Independence Day celebration together. Once again, come off just wonderful, wonderful event, and you guys, your efforts are much appreciated, so I wanted you all to hear that again. Traffic Safety Commission, conversations are just still rolling forward on previous things I've already mentioned. I am attending next week with the chairman, as well as I believe Officer Miller's attending as well. We're going to a presentation on some traffic enforcement devices, if you will, in Happy Valley, so I'll report on that next time. And we did offer an appointment to Tina Schimpf to replace Mr. Bob Canberra. So once again, he did show up at the meeting just to say, he didn't come in. He stood outside to say goodbye to everybody because his house sold. And so he just wanted to come say goodbye to everyone. So again, Bob, if you're watching, thank you so much for your chairmanship and leadership and all your work on the Traffic Safety Commission. And we look forward to working with Tina when we officially appoint her at the next meeting. Eileen and I met with the director from DLCD with Brenda Bateman. That was a nice conversation, and it was nice to have her reach out and spend some time with us and talking about our urban growth boundary project and how she and we can work together. So that was a nice conversation. So appreciate her time on that. And with that, that's really all I have. So liaison reports, you to have anything?
I do not.
You do not? Very well, then we'll move this way. Counselor Davis.
Okay, well, Independence Day, exceptionally busy with all the activities. Great job to the city staff. I'd like to also thank all the sponsors for the fireworks. It was a wonderful show. I don't know how many people heard, but Malala had their grand finale mid-afternoon at the Buckaroo, which caused a very large grass fire at the same time as their grand finale. So all those people from Malala probably came over to Canby based upon the amount of people that we had in town. Thank you to everybody and to the sponsors, and Canby PD did a great job getting the traffic out of there as always. So great job on that as well. We also had the Nothing But Net downtown, and I'd like to thank Chief Tro and Shermoda and Jose, as well as Matt Dale from the fire department, and myself. It was a little hot that day, putting up all the basketball hoops and things like that. But yeah, fire can work with police on a few things. So good job to you guys on that as well. On the Park and Rec side, we did have our meeting last night. And a lot of projects going on right now. Maple Street, they have started the turfing, the field work at Maple Street. They will be working on the scoreboards as well. It's anticipated October, possibly that project will be wrapped up. Auburn Farms is moving along with the design, and will be working on that one through the Park and Rec Committee. Legacy Park has been delayed a little bit, but that hopes to be done, Jerry said, hopefully by August, in regards to the fitness courts up there as well. So one item that we did talk about at the meeting last night was the Park and Rec Committee has an idea that they would like to present to the council. And so we would need a short work session for the Park and Rec chair to come in and to talk to the council about a proposed idea. It doesn't necessarily go away from the Park and Rec master plan. It's just that this particular item is not listed as a priority in the Park and Rec master plan, so it brought up an interesting discussion as far as what do you do with something when you have a master plan and something else comes up with a great opportunity for the community. So I recommended that we present that to the city council in a work session so that we can look at, is this a great opportunity which is going to provide tremendous activities for youth as well as adults in our community. So Eileen, if we could possibly book that in the future so that they can present that to the rest of the city council, I think that'd be tremendous. And then, of course, my other liaison was the Adult Center, and that was their big subject of discussion, was their big move. Kathy said at best would be 2 years before that move actually happened. So that gives us a lot of time to kick around what are we going to do with that building when they do move out. So we have some potential to discuss that as a council as well too. So. And on the fire front, the fire department, if you haven't heard the sirens, we've been very, very, very busy. At our last council get-together, I had to leave unexpectedly for a second alarm fire on a 1914 house, which is on the historical list. We were able to save the house. But it did cause a pretty big drain on resources in regards to the firefighters operating that fire for quite some time and trying to save the rest of the house. But it was very hot, causing the second alarm assignment. But we've been very busy with fires and medical calls. But with that too, we are in the final stages of working out the employment contract for my deputy chief, Matt Dale, who will be taking over as the fire chief. Hopefully that's approved at the next board meeting at the end of this month.
Oh, they're not going to let you go, just like we don't let kids know.
Watch me.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Davis. Councilor Stearns, do you have any reports tonight?
I went to the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, and the only thing of note that we talked about a little bit, which might be something that we could put, they're talking a little bit about problems sometimes with e-bikes that go faster than other bikes. some people thought up maybe there might need to be a ban on e-bikes. I don't think that's necessary. I think just, if anything, you just want to put a speed limit for everybody, so.
Put a speed limit on the bike trail.
Well, I mean, I'm not a bicyclist, but I am a pedestrian, and sometimes I do get almost run over by bicyclists. And personally, which is not my opinion about not the opinion of the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, but personally, I'd like to see the sidewalks in downtown off limits to bicyclists if they're over like 14 years old or something to that effect. You know, I don't mind the kids, but when you get run over by somebody
You do
while
have
you're
a bike
walking,
lane, yeah.
and you know, those people, anybody who's like 14 should be on the street. They don't go that fast.
I'll be careful next time.
Okay. Well, you know, I could put my foot out or something and.
Okay.
So, but that's pretty much all I have to say, really. Yeah, my daughter gets married in a couple weeks, so
Oh, congratulations.
that'll be,
All right.
that has
Your
nothing to do with
chaos
city
in your
business.
house, right?
Yes. Nothing to do with city business, but I just want to say it anyway.
All right.
But-
Thank you, Counselor Stearns. Counselor Sassy.
Library Board met last night, and we talked, and their community bulletin board, if you haven't seen it, it's right in the first entryway of the library. It's a huge success. People are putting up whatever parties or events there are, so that's been a good thing. They're having a Lego building competition July 30th. Signups are required. And they've been working on this for a while. They are going to get a teen mural on the back teen wall from this famous artist who does murals, and that was funded by the Library Foundation. So they're glad to have that happening. They're still working on the strategic plan for goals and priorities, and they are still working on donation policies. They're close, but not quite there yet, but they're close. And that's all I have.
All right. And you mentioned Legos, which reminded me, this Saturday, I will be attending, and I'm telling anybody who doesn't know in the community, Bricks and Minifigs is grand reopening is this Saturday. So come by and check out their new digs and, well, it's the same digs, just redone, and celebrate their reopening. It starts at 9 a.m. until about 3. I think I draw a drawing for a prize at 3 o'clock on Saturday. So come down to Bricks and Minifigs. Anything else? Do we have any other citizen input online? I have no yellow cards. Anybody in the audience want to input?
City administrator.
Oh, we're getting there. That's the next thing on the agenda. All right, citizen administrator, or city administrator business. Thank you.
I did want some time tonight, just because I did spend some time updating the council goals. So this is the first quarterly report of the council goals. So I don't know if you have any questions on any of them. I was able to update, I think, just about every single item. There's been some progress on, so I'm really pleased with that. So hopefully you like that report.
Nice format too. I liked it. It was easy to read and. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. So what we'll do as we update it is we will just change the status report. You know, the next report will say second quarter status report, and we'll just change the status as we go through time. So, you know, so this will be workable and easily readable. So I'm not going to add, I just don't have enough space to be able to add second quarter report, third quarter report, fourth quarter report.
We can hold on to it.
Okay.
Or at least I will. I'm maybe the only one nerdy that way, but.
I'll make sure and save them by quarter in the folder. So if anybody wants to see an earlier one, we can do that. So that's that. There was bi-monthly reports. One of the things that I promised the council was that we would put the council goals at the top of the bi-monthly reports. I wanted to do that this time, but I realized that those bi-monthly reports were for May and June. So you will see that in the next go-around.
Very good. Okay.
We did meet, a couple of other items. We did meet today with Clackamas County reps on the city-led homeless initiative. And there's going to be a need to adopt an intergovernmental agreement in that October timeframe. One of the things that we talked about was, so this is about $336,000 that's coming from the county, and a portion of it is going to the library for employment services and programs. A portion is going to the police department, and speaking of public camping, a portion is going for infrastructure essentially to enhance our public camping areas where we do allow it to occur. So, and then a portion is going to the Canby Center for programs. So I'm very excited that this is a grant that I applied for or that we applied for in January, and it's taken all this time to kind of come to fruition. So you will see that by the time, it will be probably September, October, by the time you see the intergovernmental agreement for that. So I'm very happy with that. Also, we are continuing to examine sites for the sports complex. So we will continue to do our due diligence on that. And then another thing that just popped up today, we may have to adopt another budget resolution. The Department of Revenue didn't like how we adopted our budget, where we had some items outside of the in one resolution and some items in another resolution. They would prefer that they all be in the same resolution, and so I've got to work out how do we document the fact that we had, some of those items that had to be approved and some that had to be abstained from in the case of Counselor Sassy. So I heard back from I put it out on the city manager's listserv today and said, has anybody encountered this situation where you've had essentially familial relationships between elected officials and staff? And I did hear back from the city of Sandy, and they had that situation where they had a counselor and a department head that were married, and they adopted a resolution, but they took the votes, they recorded the votes differently. So this portion of the budget was approved by the full council, and this portion of the budget was approved minus the one counselor who had the conflict of interest. So anyway, don't ask me how I feel about this development, but we may have to bring back a budget resolution and adopt it differently at the next meeting, so.
And does that put us out of compliance with the ORS being the end of June? Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's all I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just one of those difficult bureaucratic things that.
Yeah.
Prioritizing form over substance to the hilt.
Okay. Thank
That's
you,
all I
David.
have.
Okay, thank you, Eileen. All right, action review, please.
You've approved the consent agenda, adopted ordinances 1625 and 1626. You've approved ordinances 1627, 1628, and 1629 to a second reading on August 7th, 2024. And you have approved resolutions 1415, 1416, and 1417.
Okay, we got a few things done. All right. That brings us to the end of the agenda. Unless you want to stay here, I need a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
All right. All right, it's been moved by Counselor Stearns, seconded by Counselor Davis. It's a